The ninth pick in the NBA draft belongs to the Dallas Mavericks.
The sound effects are so perfect. That is the brainchild of one Andrew Seeley. Bravo, sir. That's outstanding, and it feels like that emotion.
Could we have had like a full-on fart noise instead? Like because that's kind of how it felt. And Rolando Blackman does like the nice polite wave, which is such a departure of what it was last year when he was like, "Yeah, we got Cooper Flagg."
Yeah,
he was like, "I don't know who we're going to be drafting at 9."
Different emotions.
Yes, it is a very different set of emotions for this franchise, and I can't help but go back to the final day of the regular season. You beat the Bulls for what exactly? Drop from 6 to 8 in the lottery pool, in the odds, and then drop to 9 because the team you beat on the final day of the regular season jumps you to move to 4. The Bulls jump to 4, and you drop to 9 correspondingly. And it is a gut punch on a lot of levels because there are a lot of draft experts that will tell you this is an 8-player draft, and you get picked 9. And why did you need to win that last game of the regular season?
I don't know. We talked about it when it actually happened. We're like, what are you doing?
Yes. Yeah.
Why are you doing this? Why is Chris Middleton getting so many minutes? Mm-hmm. Why? What are you doing? Like, I go back to even the March game against the Grizzlies when Middleton had like 35 points. I'm like, the moment he starts cooking, get him out of the game. Like, if you're going to tank. And
yeah.
This, like,
that's
this
the thing.
halvesy
Right.
crap is how they got here.
Right.
And it's not even just, it's the Grizzlies game and the Bulls game. And they beat teams that were in the mix. They needed to lose those games. The Lakers game.
Okay.
Yes.
These were all games down the stretch that they had no business winning if you're in that tank mode. And they just couldn't help themselves.
The most egregious one is absolutely the last game of the season.
I was going to say.
And is it on Kid? Is it on the... I don't even know who to be angry at.
Yeah. There should have been some element of a comprehensive discussion. Kid and everybody. This is what we're doing. At least for this last year, tanking was still legal.
I mean, it's
You've
still
done it all
legal
season
next
long.
year. They're not gonna they're not technically penalizing you for tanking next year. They're just changing the draft order.
Point for you to do it,
right? Like they're changing the benefit. That's the issue. Like,
right, but they've changed the benefits so much that there won't be
there's
any
deterrence
point.
for it, whereas there wasn't this year.
Deterrence for ugly tanking. Like what the Mavs did this year, they could get away with next year because they will be in that.
What bothers me is
but there's no value because 4 through 10. We don't need to relitigate
I know, but
all of the
that's also part of
percentages,
this,
but
right?
This was your last chance.
Yeah,
this was your last chance, and you blew it.
Yeah.
And now you're not going to have one of the guys that you needed. Maybe needed is too strong a word, but that you absolutely would have loved.
It's the right word. I mean, again, because they don't have the assets, they don't have the draft capital for years.
Yes,
they needed it. Yeah. They absolutely needed it. Now they have to get creative in free agency, and now it becomes it becomes much harder to build around Cooper Flagg this way when you're going to be now drafting a player at 9 who probably is a bit of a tweener and is going to require some development, whereas maybe the top 5 are more ready now. And Mavs' new GM, Mike Schmitz, was at the draft. He was asked about this on Sunday, and he was even saying, like, we're going to look for somebody who can be, like, part of the rotation. That was an interesting word to use, rotation player,
right?
As opposed to starter, key contributor. Like, you're just looking for a guy who can be in your top 9? That's tough. And that becomes more of a we have to wait and see approach on a player where if you have Kyrie, you don't have 5 years to wait. You don't have 4 years to wait on a guy. But I go back.
Does this increase the likelihood that they trade Kyrie?
I think it's got to make the thought creep a little bit deeper into if we're going to rebuild, we might have to just. It's not a rebuild because you have Cooper Flagg.
Right.
But it's a restructure. And you definitely have to renovate some things. And maybe trading Kyrie while he still has value should be in the consideration, especially if you're picking at 9. Because then maybe you're looking at, we're probably not going to be real contenders for 2-3 years. And in 2-3 years, is Kyrie going to be Kyrie? And I think that's the calculus you have to make. It's a hard calculus, but it's one that they have to make.
Yeah, I mean, that's been part of the juggling decision throughout this whole thing, is giving Cooper that experience with Kyrie worth missing out on draft capital. Like, because that's what you're saying. There's a dearth of it moving forward. That being said, Ujiri is still spinning it positive, as you have to and after these circumstances. We can actually listen to the new team president after the draft lottery yesterday.
It's pretty deep, and you saw them walking around. You could just take one and run away with them. It's a great draft, and it's going to go even deeper because a couple players will probably come out of the works, But watching college basketball this year was really fun, and watching these players really stand out and step up. So look forward to the draft.
If you're going to have anybody making the decision, I like the fact that this guy is the one who's making the decision. He has shown the ability to evaluate talent, especially coming out of the draft, and make the right call. So of the options they're going to have at their fingertips, I like the fact that he's the one who's pulling the trigger, but you certainly would have loved to have him picking 6th. Would have been a lot better.
100%. And I think that's probably the silver lining in all this, where Mavericks fans are up in arms about landing at 9, is you probably have one of the best talent evaluators of prospects, really 2 of them, and their new GM, Mike Schmitz, is real good too, in understanding what talent looks like at an NBA level. Masai Ujiri in Toronto was able to find all-star caliber players that weren't in the top 3, top 4. It's so easy to just run up there and press a button and draft Cooper Flagg number 1. Oh, how difficult that is on your front office to evaluate.
Even Nico Harrison could figure that one out.
Yeah, exactly. But do you know how hard it is in the NBA draft, in today's NBA, where talent, it really does separate. It's more of that cream rises to the top more than it was 20 years ago. It's really hard to find all-stars later in the draft and nail those picks. And him finding Pascal Siakam and nailing Scotty Barnes. I mean,
Scotty Barnes is maybe the best artifact
these are
these
are the types of picks that Masai Ujiri has to his credit, and that is what they need to nail in this draft. And it's need because they don't have the option of waiting till next year and see if they can roll the dice even better. So yeah, I think there's definitely some feel good in that. But
in the alternative,
it's not necessarily needle in the haystack, but it's close.
I was going to say, this is not the first time the Mavs were selected 9th overall. They actually have a decent history the couple times they've had the 9th pick in their history. If we can call up VO17 here real quick. Just to kind of break this down, obviously Dirk stands out. They did trade with the Bucks to acquire him, but Rolando Blackman obviously is a nice pick. Dale Ellis was an all-star. Samaki Walker was an NBA champion with the Lakers, but solid player. And then Dennis Smith Jr. in 2017. That's not a bad track record at picking.
I mean, that's really good, actually, for 9th overall.
I was going to say. So, this is not a death sentence, but this is also not what they expected.
But each year is independent of the next.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, it's a great graphic and kind of illustrates all of it, but
right. We have no idea. That's part of it.
We thought Dennis Smith Jr. was going to be a potential all-star.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, went down the moment
He started well.
Right.
He did.
He started well. It just didn't maintain the way that it needed to. Let's look at a couple of the guys that they may potentially select. If we can call up VO12, Braden Burries, the guard out of Arizona, is the one that is most commonly being mocked to Dallas now that we know the draft order. A lot of the mock drafts have Burries going 9 overall to the Mavs. 6'4" guard, 20-year-old kid, was the leading scorer for Arizona, who had a fantastic team this year. There's a lot that he brings to the table. He's not in that upper echelon that we're talking about of guys that we feel like are potentially franchise-changing players, but there is value to this kid, and he can be a good complement to Cooper Flagg and to Kyrie Irving if that is indeed where they go with all this.
Very intriguing player. He seems much more of like an off-ball guard. I mean, I think he had like 2 assists per game, so this is not like a ball-dominant type of player, or at least
about 2.5 assists
creating for others. Like he's more of like he's a shooting guard, I would think. And maybe that works in this iteration of the Mavs if they plan to keep Kyrie for 3 years, because then you have Kyrie at the point. Cooper can handle the ball a bit. He can probably, Burries could handle the ball a bit. And maybe that probably helps you most right now. But long term, is that the right fit? Because then you're going to probably need a ball handling, ball dominant point guard at some point, and you don't have a draft pick to get one. So you either have to then go to the trade or free agency in some point in the next couple of years when you have to, find a replacement for Kyrie long term. I come back to LeBaron Philon. May I introduce you to the Alabama guard who averaged, 22 points, five assists. He really stood out in the NCAA tournament to me because he was going up against really good competition and just giving them buckets. And it wasn't just scoring. It was high efficiency. It was assists. He can rebound. He's the same height as Burries. I think he's just one. He was a sophomore while Burries was a freshman in Arizona. And they went, they played against each other. Alabama and Arizona played each other earlier this year, and both players had great games. I like Philon a lot because if you can go up against, strong defenses and give them 20, 30 plus in the dance, that says something, because you're going to be going up against similar competition in the NBA, especially as young as the league is getting. And they need somebody that can A, score, and B, create for others. And he can do both of those things, and he defends pretty well. So, I don't know. He checks a lot of boxes for me, and I'm almost positive he'll be there at 9.
A lot of mocks have him going in the 12-13 range.
Right.
This is where we get back to the Masai Ujiri of it all and what does he value. And if you're looking for a check plus for LeBaron Philon defensively, when he doesn't have, he was better defensively as a freshman than he was as a sophomore. But that was when he had Mark Sears next to him and he was able to kind of share responsibilities a little bit, which you would imagine in the NBA, especially if they do keep Kyrie Irving, he'll be able to do some sharing of responsibilities, if not be probably the tertiary or quaternary option for the Dallas Mavericks from an offensive perspective. So, yeah, I think you'll be able to focus in on the defensive end of the ball a little bit more. He can be anyway. He's shown the ability to be very good on that end.
Yeah, he just seems like he can do everything.
So
I don't know.
You guys are thinking guard is kind of what the direction is going here.
I am.
Yeah.
So more for need than best player available, or it could be both. That's part of it.
I think he is. He
Right.
would probably be the best player available at 9. But again, I'm not Masai Ujiri. I'm not Mike Schmitz. I'm just here a guy watching basketball and then looking at metrics and trying to see where a guy might fit. But some teams might want to roll the dice on a freshman because they can craft him and develop him a little bit more. But again, talking about maybe a year of difference. Sometimes a little age on a player is not the worst thing.
Right.
They've seen more basketball. They've spent 2 years in the SEC as Philon did. So I don't know, just intriguing player because I go back to, can you create for others besides just creating your own shot? And depending on what kind of offense they want to run, if they want 3 guys who can all create their own shot and create for others, that becomes really enticing. Whereas with Burries, it feels like you would just kind of have a floor spacer on offense. And I don't know is that really worth it when you can have a guy who can space the floor and create? That's where I depending on where they go in the draft, that'll be one of my questions. For the Mavs front office is why did they, view that over someone else?
And if this helps at all relative to the age of the two players, even though Philon played 2 years in college basketball, he's actually 2 months younger than Braden Burries. So that's really not that much of a concern.
Maverick.
Perfect. By the way, I totally took a guess with quaternary, and I was actually I took a leap of faith with that one as my mental processing happened there.
What's crazy?
Got lucky with that
is
one.
that he looks at us like nerds because we know about sports cards and trading cards,
And then he drops a thesauri.
This guy has an SAT word calendar next to his desk that he has to go through every word every day.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little proud of that one, just a little bit.